In any good adventure setting, there needs to be classes that a character falls in whenever engaging in combat, and in Frieren Beyond Journey's End, this story is no exception. The classes that we know of in this story are the warrior, mage, and priest. There are subcategories that we'll talk about, as well as special abilities that certain characters have. But it's important to note that these are the three major classes that a character can fall in. Mages in the world of Frieren appear to be the most popular class since magic is now widely known across the continent. Mages fall into one of three categories as they grow more powerful, the first one being a third-class mage. In order to become a third-class mage, while little is known about the exam, you need to pass one in order to gain a certificate saying that you are a certified mage. Interestingly, it looks like the use of magic is quite regulated in this world, which makes it seem very unfun, which is the point of both main characters Fern and Frieren. Fern even refers to Frieren as an unlicensed underground mage at one point. A second class mage, while we don't have a definitive answer, we can assume is someone who is in a position of power that is granted to them by first class mages, such as Werbel, who is a second class mage and the captain of the Northern Magic Corps. And in order to become a second class mage, you must pass a test given to you by what appears to be first class mages, as we learned with Ubel. And first class mages are considered the most powerful mages in existence, being given special permissions such as being able to travel to the northern part of the continent. This title also gives you special permissions that we have yet to see in the anime. It's also important to note that the title of first class mage can only be gained by someone who has passed a series of tests set by the great mage Cyrie. And it should also be noted that even though you get special permissions, this title also comes with responsibilities to the great mage Cyrie. There's also one more title above this, but it's more of an informal title, Great Mage. And this title seems to be reserved for legendary figures that have influenced history, such as the Great Mage Flamma, who made magic widespread. The important thing about each magical user is that any number of spells can exist in this world, and any one person can learn them so long as they have the grimoire for it. Unfortunately, it's unclear where mages draw their power from. What we do know is that it is simply a force that exists in the world that only certain individuals can utilize. It's also heavily insinuated that a person can develop their own type of magic that is heavily dependent on their personality. However, this is yet to be confirmed. And while it does at first glance look like mages need staffs or wands in order to cast magic in this world, there have been examples of people doing so without one, such as how Flamma uses magic without a staff, and other characters have been observed to use hypnosis magic without a staff. Mages in this world, just like most other stories, are the most powerful of the four classes. However, they are vulnerable at close distances. And unlike other magic systems in storytelling, Frieren's power system seems bound by what your imagination is capable of thinking of. In this world, magic is the world of visualization, and if you can imagine yourself doing it, see yourself do it, then it's more than likely possible that you can. The second out of the four classes that exist within Frieren Beyond Journey's End is the warrior class, which seems to be the most respected out of the four. The reason being is because this seems like the most integral part when traveling together in a party, the vanguard person who can take the frontal assault. This class is also the one with the most subcategories, although I will say at the end of the day they're all warriors, people with superhuman strength and speed. In the warrior category, the vanguard is the most popular subcategory, with most people on adventures being within this. Vanguards, as I stated earlier, are the person who manages the front line when battling. Unfortunately, because of this, vanguards are often the one who die the most, as stated by Werbel in the Northern Wars he was participating in. The lesser known categories within the warrior class are the thief and monk. When it comes to the monk, Kraft is the only example that we have of this class, using his supernatural speed and strength in order to get the best of people trying to have their way with Ubel. Unfortunately, at this point in the story, it's unclear if the monk is a subcategory of the priest class, because we haven't seen Kraft use any magic that has been endowed to him by the goddess, although he has stated that that is his purpose, to live a good life serving others, to be praised by the goddess at the end. It's also important to note that Croft used to be a more traditional warrior, wielding a weapon in his statue that was forged for forever ago. As for the thief category, I'll be touching on it as lightly as possible because we'll be getting into spoilers if I did. These are people who use smaller weapons in order to be assassins, using their supernatural strength and speed to get the better of other classes, which is an important thing to note about the warrior class. They are the most adept when it comes to one-on-ones with other classes. Priests are the third of the 4 classes and the second rarest when it comes to their abilities. Priests, unlike mages, draw their power from the goddess of creation, being blessed with them. It's unclear in the show why these characters are blessed, but the ones that we have seen within the show that are usually priests. So it's assumed that you must be devout to the goddess of creation in some way in order to use these magical abilities which are unique to this class. Interestingly, there seems to be some overlap between the mage and priest class. However, mages are unable to use the magic from the priest class to their full extent, as we see with Frieren. I do believe a good example of this was when either Fern or Stark was sick, and Frieren used some of Heiter's teaching in order to cure them. But once again, it was not as effective as an actual priest using this magic. Some unique, cool things about the priest class is that they are able to resist magical hypnotism as well as dispel it from affecting others, poison, as well as heal others effectively. It's also important to note that the priest class is capable of using battle magic, such as Sign using, I do believe it was called, the 3 Spears of Light attack. The priest class is so capable, in fact, that in a future event of the show, we see Heiter, spoilers, temporarily hold his own against one of the demon generals. The last class out of the 4 classes may not even be a class itself, which is why I'm identifying it as a special class. People in this class may even be a subcategory of warrior, however, they have special abilities, such as the Hero of the South. Much like the warrior class, the Hero of the South had superhuman strength and speed. However, he also had the special ability of foresight, being able to see in the future. And in a future event, spoilers, we learned that one of the demons actually had future sight as well, his name being Schlacht. It's unclear whether Schlacht was more of a mage or a warrior, but what we do know is that he used this similar ability to force the Hero of the South into a stalemate. And once again, spoilers, it's entirely possible that this ability Schlacht had was a more powerful version of the Hero of the South's, because we learn in a future event that the only reason he died against the Hero of the South was to ensure a future for demons. And his foresight was so powerful that he was even able to talk to Frieren through Mock's memories, being able to perceive her through them. Unfortunately, when it comes to this special class, I can't think of any other examples besides maybe Himmel. Himmel, despite fitting presumably in the warrior class, has shown feats within the source material that would say otherwise. It's somewhat implied that in the source material, Himmel's will is somewhat supernatural, being able to stir himself out of Grozom's magic, a feat that not even Frieren was capable of doing, although she admits it was because of her own negligence in a certain study. Himmel is so locked in as a warrior that he's able to fight while blind and his senses dampened, which anyone would consider supernatural in the world, especially the demon general he was fighting. Grozom was absolutely dumbfounded that Himmel was able to do this. Interestingly, when it comes to defeating Aura the Guillotine, it's heavily implied that Himmel was able to overcome her because of his immense will. One of the 2 ways to overcome Aura's magic is by simply having too great of a will to control, which Frieren explains during the first season, and it's entirely possible that the reason she knows this is because Himmel overcame her with his will. So it's entirely possible that when it comes to Himmel, he has some form of special resilience, so to speak. And that's all the classes in Frieren Beyond Journey's End, and as always, thank you for watching.